So Sam and I have been talking about parallel teaching and how Ready Classroom just does such a great job giving us tools to implement parallel teaching. And so she's going to talk with you about the overview of what parallel teaching is, and then I'm going to talk with you about the specifics of Ready Classroom and how those resources just tie in so well with parallel teaching.
So, parallel teaching is a great tool to use with a Ready Classroom. Parallel teaching is when two teachers jointly plan together and then they divide the class in two, and one takes a group and the other takes a group. It's really important to avoid making one group the special ed group when you're using this model.
Mhm.
Consider dividing the class based on factors other than skills, and always be aware of what the students are needing based on your data that you're pulling this information from. It also allows students to have a smaller setting so they can get more individualized instruction from each teacher.
And like, more I just think about with parallel teaching just the opportunities to respond,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're breaking them in, like you said, into a smaller group, they're able to have more opportunities to
Right.
respond and interact with that.
And one group may look very different from the other group. For example, they may be using manipulatives, different kinds of cards or task cards, depending on what their needs are at that time. And
Hmm.
the teachers can swap groups based on the day and whatever you're teaching so that the special ed teacher is not always teaching the students that need the more intensive instruction.
Hmm. And it also allows you to differentiate really well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on, like you said, based on student needs.
Right.
So whether that group needs reteaching or whether it's a group that needs extension, you're able to meet those needs. So I want to show you briefly the a sample lesson in Ready Classroom and just the components of it. So if you haven't been able to look at this much, we highly recommend that you dig into Ready Classroom and math and really look at that. But as she was talking about, parallel teaching, you've got um, you've got these teaching components here. So you in a lesson, you actually have the lesson laid out, and you also have interactive tutorials. So even if you have a group that needs extension, needs to move on, you can assign those interactive tutorials to give them an opportunity to move forward. You've also got prerequisite lessons in Ready Classroom already prepared. So for this unit, we know these are the prerequisite lessons that if iReady groups your students into a group that needs those prerequisite lessons, you've already got them there as part of that parallel teaching group. So that's there. And then also, if students need reteaching in a small group, those tools are there as well. And then you've got tons of resources within Ready Classroom to equip you. You don't have to prepare any of that other than, pulling it and studying it and just making sure that you're using your data, as Sam said, to really inform how those groups are going to work or the parallel teaching groups are going to work. And, the resources are here. They're here for prereq, they're here for extension. They're here if you have a group that can move forward on their own. You've got tutorials there. So, um, I just love the resources that Ready Classroom gives us for that reason.
It's an amazing compilation of different things to do with different kids based on their needs right here at your fingertips.
Yeah. So we're excited to see how you utilize Ready Classroom to implement parallel teaching. So thank you. And right now you're going to talk about what do you need to do in your school, in both as a teacher leader and a teacher, to think about how can we move parallel teaching forward? What do we need to do to support that? What training or support do we need to offer our teachers in the building? What does planning look like? How's that going to look differently to move into parallel teaching? And also, possibly, if we look at people across the board in our schools, like who can we push in to provide help with parallel teaching if a co-teacher is not present in the classroom. So lots of conversations about how can we use parallel teaching and what support and what next steps are we going to need to engage in order to make it happen. So happy planning, happy discussion.